let me just check the chat and see people coming in. We've got a few people already. Um, Today we are joined by, well, how do you say your name actually?
Okay, Tolu Lokpe. You can just call me Olu, if Olu is easier, Olu.
Tolu Lope.
Okay, yeah, that's you tried. You did it well.
I
You
tried.
did it well. Yeah, you did.
Fair enough.
You did
Fair
well.
enough.
Yeah.
Um, so we are just doing a bit of a soft intro because people are going to be coming in and joining the stream, and it happens a little bit slowly. But some of the things we're going to talk about today is we recently launched our new animation editor, which was a really big launch. It's something we've been working on for a while, and that we're really excited about because we really think it brings something completely new to this space. We've had animations in CSS for many years, like keyframe animations as well, but they've always been very underused on the web, especially when you compare it to like way back in the day when we had Flash. And I think a big part of that is just because the tools aren't really um, what they used to. Like we used to have nice visual tooling for Flash. With CSS, you kind of have to write it all in code, and that just makes it a little bit more finicky. So I can see more people are joining. Please write in the chat. I can't see everyone on different platforms, so please write hello in the chat if you're here and let us know. Um, yeah, the people are watching, so we can dive in. So yeah, I actually recorded a short video with some animation examples earlier today that we'll be launching. It'll probably go out tomorrow with some nice examples of what you can do, and it really sort of combined with what you can do in Nordcraft already, add some really interesting new opportunities. And we've been having a ton of fun just playing around with it and sort of trying to discover what is actually possible, right? Because ideas sort of when you have a new tool, the ideas sort of start flowing, right? Um, so we are beginning to see some people join. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Um, and actually show you some of the stuff I've been playing around with. Some of this is a little bit some of this is a little bit what's the word? Bleeding edge. So it's not everything that's perfectly native supported in Nordcraft yet. And by that I mean it's not everything you can do through the style panel. Sometimes you have to use advanced properties. And some of the stuff I want to show you later around scroll-based animations is actually not doesn't have broad browser support yet. So that's why you can't natively do it in Nordcraft yet, or at least you can't. It's not in the animation panel yet. It's because we're still waiting for browser support, but that should come later this year. So I'm just gonna make my screen a little bit bigger. There we go. So one of the things I've been playing around, I did this examples earlier today. There's a video coming out about this sort of text wheel where you basically sort of draw the text around a circle and then animate it with rotate. And the animation here is very simple. This is just a simple, let's go here. I'm just going to move windows around. This is just a simple animation going from 0 to 360 degrees over 10 seconds. And it just loops infinitely. So if you're not so familiar with the animation panel yet, you get these keyframes, and every property you want to animate of an element, you sort of get lined up here at keyframe, and you can move these keyframes around. You can change the duration of the animation if you want to set a delay so it doesn't start right away, and all these different controls, right? The timing function. Do you want it to be an even, or do you want it to sort of gain up some momentum and get back again? Wait, you can see we can sort of change the way it actually behaves, right? There's a lot of different controls, and timing function is something that we've gone really all in. You can really control quite a lot about exactly what do you want this to be like function to be, right? You can control the details of it, right? But again, for this one, I was just using simple linear. So in sort of exploring this, I started diving into like, right, but what can you do that are more complicated, that using like maybe some of the lesser known properties in CSS. And I came about this idea with offset path. And so the principle is actually the same as the wheel. So in the wheel here, if we go back to that, in the wheel here, what I'm actually doing is I'm splitting the text into individual characters. So each character is in its own span. And then I'm just turning each character by itself and just syncing them all up this way, right? So they're actually not rotating the characters themselves. They're just inside a div that's rotating, right? So each of those have just been rotated with a transform to the exact right angle to spell this out, right? And I was like, how can we take this a bit further? And so in this case, I'm using a property called offset path. And I bet a lot of people have no idea what that is. But the principle is actually fairly simple. So I'm going to go show the CSS frame this because we don't really have, we don't have offset path as something you set in the style panel. It still shows up in the advanced, right? But it's probably easier to view it over here in the CSS panel. And what it basically does is it takes a path, which you also use in SVG, and you set this property offset path and then defines this path. And the path is what you're seeing here, this swirl. That's what all these numbers describe. You don't generally like write that yourself. You draw it up in Figma or something, and then you just copy it in, right? People don't use, most of the time, people don't actually write these paths. They're from a tool, right? You can just copy them in. But with this offset path, you're basically telling an element, I want you to move along this path a certain distance, and that's this offset distance property we're setting that's going from 0 to 100. And so if we go back and look at the animation, which is on the span, of course, if we go back and look at the animation, all it's doing here is animating this offset distance from 0 to 100%, so from the start to the end. And then it fades in as well at the same time to give this effect. And that means we get this fade in effect while it's moving down. And the only thing I made it to do to spell out the letters here is that's split by each letter. And then each element has this little style variable that says you should have a delay based on your index. So the first letter has 0 delay, the second letter has 130 millisecond delay, third letter, etc. So they have a delay in when they start that animation based on their position in array, and we just feed that into the animation here, right? So you can use style variables inside animations as well. You can't animate style variables yet, like you can't actually animate the values, but we are working on adding that as well. So you can actually animate style variables, which unlocks a whole new set, and I'll do a ton of new videos of what you can actually do with that as well. But this is sort of one of the things we've been playing with, and what I really want to say is like this is not limited to the style panel. Like you can animate actually any CSS property. It's not all of them that will have like a smooth transition. Like if you're animating from display none to display flex, it literally just ticks and stops from none to flex. But technically anything can be part of an animation. So I highly encourage people to go and play around. Like you can animate pretty much anything. You can create pretty crazy ideas of what should happen, right? Maybe it does not all of it fits in a business dashboard, but you really can add quite a lot of nice touches to your applications with this new animation, and it really does make it very easy to do. It's very easy to dial it into just right. So I can see we've got a lot more people joining the chat, so that's nice to see. If you have any questions along the way, I can see we already have a ton. I was just on the wrong tab here. So yes, Andreas, audio from Andreas is a little bit quieter. Let's see if I can adjust that here. I'm not actually 100% sure if I can. I am unfortunately dialed entirely up on my audio. I can try and speak louder, but I can't adjust the volume on my end. So I hope you can still hear me just fine. Okay. So yeah, please, if you have any questions about everything I'm talking about, just jump in, give me a shout, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. One other thing that I've that I've quite enjoyed playing with. This is based on essentially. I'll share this tab instead. So this is based on a new thing, a new browser standard that's coming. It is landed in Chrome. It is being worked on in Safari and Firefox. It's called, and it's called Animation Timeline. And the principle is fairly simple. Normally, a timeline for animation is measured in time, right? You have a timeline that's 2 seconds long. That's how long it takes, right? And then it applies this timing function, which means that it might be faster in the beginning, slower in the end, those kind of things. But normally, it's all animations are based on time. And with the animation timeline, you can actually change that. And the first thing they added is based on what they call scroll timelines. So I want to show you what that can. You can do this today, but it's important to understand that it does not have cross-browser support, which is why there's no built-in sort of UI way of doing it in Nordcraft yet. But in this case, I'm gonna add just a div to this thing, and we're gonna say you are gonna be 100% wide and 5 pixels high. You're gonna have a background color that is red, 500. And then we're going to position you fixed and at the left and top 0, right? So at the top of the screen, on top of everything, we get this red bar. Let's make that much bigger so everybody can see it. We'll do 10 pixels, right? We'll do 15 pixels. I hope you can see that through the stream now. Ah, well, we don't have to. We can just give it, make it even bigger, right? It doesn't matter. So this bar just sits fixed on top of the whole screen, and I can give this an animation here, and I can say I want you to start at width 0, and I want you to end at width 100%. So now this just kind of animates in 2 seconds, animates from left to right? And I can give it like, let's say linear, right? So it keeps an even animation, right? Now that's fine. But I can now change the timeline. So instead of being based on time, I want it to be based on scroll. And I've cheated a little bit because I already added a property here down here at advanced, and I'll show you. It's actually easy to see in advanced. So the property is called scroll-timeline. And what you do is you give it a name that starts with a double dash or double hyphen, because that's like how we name CSS variables in CSS, and then space Y, and Y just says it's on the Y-axis. This is something we are totally going to bake into on an animation panel once it has cross-browser support, which we expect to be at some point later this year. But for now, you can just add it as an advanced property. And now that this has an animation like this, which is the container that scrolls, right? When this has an animation timeline, I can now go and say this guy, the actual bar here, that should have an animation. Sorry, the other one had a scroll timeline. It's important to get the names right. This is a scroll timeline that you define on the container. And this one down here gets an animation timeline. And that is main scroll, right? And you could see the second we added it, it updated the UI, which is a good indicator that works. And so now as I'm scrolling, nothing happens. Let's see that again. This is main scroll. Why? This is main scroll animation timeline. That is correct. Aha! Live demos. So now as I'm scrolling down the page, this scroll indicator at the top goes up. And exactly when I hit the end of the scroll, I'm hitting the end of the page here, right? So now you can create animations that are actually mapped to your page's scroll position. This is what like every marketing site, every fancy website has some version of this, but it's normally done with like JavaScript libraries and all sorts of complicated tricks. And that's going right into the browser. So we chose to say, well, we want to support that, but if it's coming native to the browser, that's how we want to support it, because it's going to be a better and smoother experience, right? And again, this is all built into the browser. It's running on the engine, means it runs on the GPU. They're going to be really fast and really performant animations, right? And again, it's just like you can animate crazy things on offset path and everything I've seen. All of that works with the with the scroll timeline, right? So you can just start making your brain work of like, what could you actually unlock with this? And it's not just simple. This is maybe the simplest, like the scroll indicator bar is probably the simplest possible example of that, right? But we can do all sorts of things. We could go and say, let's say here in this second section, I want to add an image, right? That image should be, I think it should be Casper, but we're going to remove the background, right? Where did you go? He's down here somewhere. We're just going to clear this up. Yeah. And let's just set some styling for you. We're just going to give you a height of like 100 pixels and a width of auto. Why are you not happy about that? Width of 100 pixels and a height of auto. It didn't mind that at all. 100 is a bit little. We'll make you a bit bigger. Right. And actually, maybe we'll put you. No. Actually, we'll do it like this with 100% height also. Did that work? I am styling the wrong thing. That is why I'm having problems. Here we are. Okay. With 100% height and height of auto, right? So now this image just sits here and we can say, what does it mean? Height fit content. So he doesn't overflow, right? So now we have Casper here sitting in the middle of our section. And we can say, I want to do an animation where Casper actually starts from minus 100%. So he starts from outside the screen here, right? Outside the screen. And we are going to go all the way to 0%, which is he's back where he was. So if we try and roll that, he's going to animate in like this, right? And so we can do that. We can map that to the same scroll timeline as before, right? Let's go and find our image. We can go and say animation timeline, right? And as we're scrolling, we can see he sort of slides in as part of this. But there's a new property coming at the same time as scroll timeline. It's an added, which is called a view timeline. So the basic principle is the same. It's based on scroll, but it's based on that element's position relative to the viewport, relative to this box. So it doesn't matter how much content you have above or below. It's only when this item scrolls into view. And that actually has like a whole view timeline property, where, just like the scroll timeline, but you can actually, there's a shorthand called view, and then Y for the view timeline. And then again, Y is just the Y scroll direction, right? So now if we start scrolling, his animation is bound only to when he enters the viewport. So at this point right here, when he begins to enter, we can't see him yet because that's the transparent part. That's when the animation starts, right? You can see he comes here, and it ends right when he sort of starts exiting, right? So that sort of allows you to do these fairly complex animations, right? And they are all triggered to where you are in the scroll position, right? And as I said, like right now, if you want to do this, it totally works. You just add these properties in the advanced section, or you can use the CSS panel if you prefer. And as they gain browser support, we will of course also add them to a style panel, so you can use them natively without having to type out the names, right? So these are just like very small, technically quite simple, even though they can look a bit complex, but technically right, quite simple examples of what you can actually do and what's coming very, very soon that you can work with, right? So I really hope people are going to play around with this. I really want to see more examples of people building and animating with the animation editor because we think it's a big deal. We've been like the whole team have been building web apps for many years, and I think it's always been a little bit of an eyesore that the web just doesn't move, right? Like native apps have these beautiful animations, and we never really see them on the web. But now the tooling is there, so we don't have any excuses anymore. It's just to get in there and start animating. Don't animate everything, right? Obviously, there is a limit. Don't go too crazy, but I think it's always okay to go a little bit crazy. We can always dial it back. So that was I wanted to show that today because we've been playing around so much with the animation editor. But the highlight of today is actually our friend. Um, I'm gonna try again.
Okay, okay.
Tolulupe. I
You tried.
tried.
Lots of people like you tried.
I did try. That
Tried.
is a statement
Yeah,
of fact.
yeah.
Yes. Because you've built this template
Yes.
called Ruckus, which I'm a big fan. I'm really impressed that so much went into it. And it
Thank you
is
so much.
already and has been for at least a week been live on our
Yeah.
template gallery. So if you're going to create a new app in Nordcraft, you can see this template and you can clone it and start working from that. And I would love for you to take us through what you've built.
Okay.
So maybe you can share your screen and show us
All
the
right.
template.
Okay. Let me do that now. Window. And you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. So the Roku's template is simply a project management dashboard, and it essentially allows teams or agencies to create projects, create tasks, have their team members write in one dashboard in one place, and also like assign tasks to them. And what I really had in mind was to make it very simple to use. I didn't want complicated things. I didn't want too much, what was the right word? Too much views on the dashboard. I wanted something users can click and then use. Um, so initially, what Andreas did mention is this was supposed to be an SPA. This was actually firstly a single page application. And when I sent it over, Andreas just recommended that why not we try it as a MPA. And I really like appreciate the um, recommendation because it really helped me really dive down and understand context. And I think most of what I did related to context and how I could like share data from the parent components right down to the train and all. So I would just like give like a little breakdown of exactly what's happening here. The major thing that controls, I would say 80% of the whole dashboard is this app wrapper here. And if you open the app wrapper here, you can see that all our models, if not all, most of our models are here. And we have the APIs, our get APIs, and workflows and formulas. And what all these do is basically share the necessary data down all the other pages. And this reduced the cluster really on my editor. As you can see, my dashboard is free. Other pages really are free and all. Um, Another cool thing about the dashboard itself is of the app itself is that there is like access levels for different users. So for example, a team user right now cannot check task that wasn't assigned to him, but the manager and the administrator can check tasks assigned to them. So let me just quickly share a demo of what I mean by that. If I share, let me share my whole screen. I'm coming. Let me share my whole screen, not just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Entire screen. Okay, perfect. Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, there
okay,
we. Oh, yes.
okay. You can see my screen. Okay, good. So
Excellent. I think we're bad. Your
Okay.
camera cut out though.
What do you say?
Your camera is not on
Oh,
though.
it's not on. Oh, come in. Let me try that again. Okay.
I'm not seeing it either.
Yeah,
Oh, there we go.
perfect. I
Perfect.
think it's on. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So I'm going to log in with a user that just have like a simple permission access control. It doesn't really have much power really to do much, and we just test how that goes through. So let me just copy this and paste this, and just give me a minute. All right, perfect. Okay. So right here is a user, Liam, and if I come over to the team members page right here, and I scroll down, okay, Liam right here, you can see that he's just like a normal user. He doesn't really have much power. He can't really do much on the dashboard. And so if, for example, I open this task here and check the task assigned that was not assigned to him, it will say that he can't check the task because it wasn't assigned to him. But if I check a task that was assigned to him, it checks the task assigned to him. Another thing is that a normal user or a team member that isn't the administrator or manager, they really can't see the transactions that took place on the app. So while a normal, a normal admin, a normal administrator can have access to, the transactions and also view, you can have access to transactions really, and also view how much has been paid, how much was budgeted, and have basically full control of the app. So those are like some key things I really like took note of, and I didn't want to like make it so cumbersome. I didn't want to make the dashboard so complicated. And for it being a template, I wanted like a normal newbie, someone that is new to Nordcraft and hasn't or is just trying out things in Nordcraft. The same person should be able to, go through the templates, understand how things can be structured, understand how things can be set, and understand how Notecraft and even the web really works. Because as I said before I converted it to like an MPE multi-page application, I didn't really understand some basic things, how the web works. But working on this and seeing how the web works and how things should be placed, how server calls this, how the database work and all everything, I could easily like make it quite simple and give context when necessary and all. So that's actually like the whole summary of how the dashboard works. Um, I've gotten some DMs about some people really like having some questions about how some of them work. So, and I've been able to like clear out some of those questions and everything. But if anyone also have any other question about how some things work, I'll so be glad to answer and all of that. Yeah.
Well, I do have a couple of questions.
All right, no
Please keep it
problem.
up because I think it's good to see it. First of all, how long did it take you to build this?
Okay, so um it took me around 2 3 months, but that was because I I initially built it like as an SPA. I had to like convert and adjust the layout to an MPA, and that took me basically like a month or so. So I'll say 2 to 3 months, but if I'm to rebuild it again, probably a month or a month and a half max, really.
Okay, it's nice. There's so much here, like the number of pages, the number of things. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, thank you
And
so
yeah, for
much.
anyone building a project like this, having this to start from is just gonna cut so much time off, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so cool to see. What do you find was the most difficult part of this build?
Okay, I think the most difficult was um at first understanding context. If you notice, I kept mentioning context because it was like a big issue personally for me and how. But I found out that once I understood it, it's made like everything like easier. It made the my workflows easier. It made my dashboard neater. and all. That really was the hardest part. The other part was some little RLS and how to effectively like set them up to ensure like there wasn't like any security breach or clash. So those were the two major issues I had,
Yeah. There's a lot of things that once they click, but that's with all development, I find, right? It's always hard
Yes,
until you learn it, and then after that, things just kind of fall
exactly,
into place.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
But so yeah, this is a really impressive project. Really
yeah.
quite impressed. Have is this your first mate? Is this sort of your biggest project yet in
This is
Nordcraft?
actually my biggest project yet. This is actually my biggest project yet. And so far, like every project that I do in Nordcraft, I not only get used to the platform which is Nordcraft, but I also like understand code in a way, and also the right practices for the web, how the web should work, how things should be rendered, just basic organization. So after each project, I feel like I get better really after each project, and it really helps really.
Yeah. I mean, we very deliberately built it just on web standards, right? We didn't really want it to be its own thing and try and recreate everything or reinvent everything because the web works really well. And
Yeah,
it does have the big benefit of like if you want to try other platforms, if you're going to go write some HTML and CSS somewhere else,
perfectly.
you already
Yes,
know how it works, right? It's all the same. There's just getting the syntax right, but that's usually not the hardest part,
clearly,
right?
clearly.
So we have some questions over here. Is it
Okay.
clonable? Like to study
Yes.
undercover parts of the app? Great work.
Thank you so much. Yes, it is actually clonable. You can find it in the community templates and you can use it. The only thing you'll have to do is actually to change the Superbase URL to your own. You can basically, but if you want to like test it out, you can actually sign up and log in with the email address you use to sign up right on Nordcraft and view how everything works. I also have like a preview login details that you can just use to preview how everything works and all. Yeah.
Nice. And can you copy and clone the backend as well?
Of course, there is a Notion. I included a Notion doc, just like the migration, and I included the migration documents to really help people in case you want to clone it. Come in. It's still loading, but you really can't just go to the documentation and then view view it. No, come on, am I able to my internet? Okay, beautiful. Okay, so once you click the Notion link, you'll be taken here. So there's a step-by-step guide on how you can actually use it. The SQL codes are also included right there.
That's so cool. So you really have the documentations there for everything. It's all built
Yeah,
in, everything you
exactly.
need. That's brilliant.
Yes,
So I
perfectly.
got a question here as well. What is your background? Do you come from a design background? Do you used to write a lot of code, or what is your background before Nordcraft?
Okay, I was in no code. I think my background is okay, design and no code. I started with WordPress, but the issue I had with WordPress was I couldn't customize things the way I want. I was basically restricted to what the plugin wanted me to do. And even though I write HTML or little PHP, it was very complicated. So I moved to Webflow, and Webflow wasn't still. I wanted to build dashboards. I think that's all I wanted to do. So I then moved to. I found Nordcraft and No Code Pro Code YouTube. That's a long story, but then I found Nordcraft, and then it was everything for me. I can't really. I'm not a full developer. I understand HTML, CSS. I can do little JavaScript, but the little that I know has really assisted me. And Notcraft, as I said, every project that I build, I actually understand. It helps me understand JavaScript more. I understand how things are actually function and how they should function. So I can design and can do little of code. So I can't really fully call myself a developer yet, but soon I know that yeah, I'll be able to like take the title fully.
I've never thought there was too much value in gatekeeping who gets to be a developer or not. I always think like if you're building something, if you build something, in my book, you're a developer. There are different developers, right? There are, you know, they're beginners, they're experienced, they're absolute legends. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I never thought there was much point in sort of not calling yourself a developer when you've built applications.
so
Because isn't that
thank you
kind of
so
the
much.
definition?
Yeah, actually, that's like I guess I'll change my name to I'm a full developer now, developer and designer. I think that helps. Thank you so much.
There's a yes agreement in the chat. Definitely developer. But I do
Okay,
hear
all
this a
right.
lot. Like it's a really funny thing that we heard a lot with our rebrand. That people like, why you focus on developers? And we're like, you are a developer. That's you. We're focusing on you. Right? I think that's sort of yeah. Let's tear down that wall. That doesn't need to exist.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so
Excellent.
much.
If there's any more questions, and it doesn't have to be just about the Rockers template, but obviously any questions about it, please ask. Or any other questions that you have that you want to ask about, now's the time. We are going to cut this session a little bit short today because we have a board meeting and all our investors are coming by the office.
Oh,
So we are cutting a little bit early, but if you have any questions before we finish, yeah, now's the time. Um, Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for building this. This is fantastic, and to say it's available. Like if when you go and create a new project, this is a template available to go and choose. And yeah, it's completely free. So many hours of work has gone into this, so you as a person cloning the template doesn't have to do it, right? So
yeah.
by all means, go and check this out. There was one question here I saw popped up that was asked earlier as well.
Okay.
You use drag and drop functionality. Did you use the Spark package drag and drop?
Yes, yes. I use the Spark package drag and drop.
And how
Let
easy
me
was
just
that to integrate?
um it was I guess I just had to like rewatch the videos over and over again to really understand how everything worked. I'm trying to open the what's popping up. Trying to open the project dashboard so we can view it. It was I think fair. It was good. But not that easy at first. But once I did it over and over again, it's actually easy. You know. I just watched the videos really. I watched the videos and asked AI to guide me a little.
That's always a good strategy. In general, drag and drop is one of those things that like it's very difficult if you want a generic solution. Like if you're just using browser APIs, it's actually quite tricky, and you have to do a lot of work yourself. The I've used the Spark drag and drop package. I really like it. It makes it a ton
Yeah,
easier, but it still gives you a lot of flexibility. If you're looking
totally.
for something like sorting a list, if that's like depending on what the specific task are, any package or any library specifically built for that is always going to be simpler. Because the hard part is that there's many different use cases for drag and drop, right? But yeah, I would recommend the Spark. It sounds like you're on the same boat. I think it works really well. But
Thank you
that's
so
not to
much.
say it's super easy, right? They still you still need to learn how it works.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Um, will there? I think this is okay. This is probably a question for me. Will there be an option to set input, like in formulas, for animated values in the animation editor?
Okay.
Um, sort of. It works the same way everything else work when you style a Nordcraft project. Like it's the same principle. If you have like a value in either variable or you want to map a formula to a styling property, you go through a style variable. There's a few reasons for this. This is generally how you do it in, you would normally do it when in CSS as well. The main reason is it allows us to keep our interface a lot simpler and less complicated, and also makes it easier for you to understand which part are bound to formulas and dynamic, right? So we actually really like that idea. What I think we'll probably do is add some shortcuts to creating them a little bit faster. Today you can't animate these variables. Like that's not possible. Um, you mean okay? That you had a whole different questions, but I'll finish this thought first. The current implementation of style variables, you can't animate them, so you can't change that value over time in an animation. But that's something we're working for on at the moment. But I see here the actual question is there a way to reuse animations easy? Uh, when you say for other values, I assume you mean for on other elements. We don't have a way of doing that yet, but we are planning on adding things like copy pasting and say, I want to use this animation in multiple places. We're going to do a overhaul of themes at some point, and we talked about having the option of having animations that live on your theme, so they're globally available. You can easily apply, right? But yeah, initially copy pasting is going to be the easiest way to use the same animation multiple places. Right? Yeah, I think that was everything. Thank you very much, everyone who tuned in and listened. I think the next time we're having this will be in 2 weeks, where Selma will be back at the helm. And I don't know what we're talking about then, but we'll announce it at some point beforehand and figure out what those office hours is going to be all about. I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. Thank
Yeah.
you very much, and
Thank
thank
you so
you,
much. I appreciate it.
Tululupe.
Yeah. You did well again.
Okay,
You did well again.
I'll
Yeah.
get there. I'll
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.